Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time this last week at the Freedom Crusade in Shreveport there at Life United. So good to go to that conference, seems like every year. It's just a great time with the Lord. We had a wonderful time. If you can, this weekend, we'll be up near Richmond, Virginia at Cornerstone Fellowship. We go there pretty much every year, have a great time there. Come be with us. We're there Sunday morning, Sunday night, and then we're there Wednesday morning, Wednesday night. We'll have an awesome time. Come join us. So we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, specifically the gathering of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war, because that's so blatant and so visible. And we're seeing that really every week more and more. I think I've seen a movement from one of those nations that that'll be the last one. And then they do 3 or 4 more things. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's adding up. And once you add up all those things, it's blatant how close we are, because that happens just after the rapture. And the second coming has tons of signs. Our book has, I think, 79 or 80. And it's remarkable. You know, when we're getting the book ready to go, people are going, they were checking it, fact checking it. They said, this stuff all came to pass. I said, that's right. I'm not smart enough to come up with this on my own. All these things are coming to pass, that when people are fact checking things on the interviews I do, they go, oh my God, this is real. So we're blessed. We're blessed. Jesus, when he came into the Gadara, the madman Gadara, the demons screamed out, have you come to torment us before the time? And they knew Jesus had a schedule, but he was early. So if demons can know the schedule, how much more the church? Paul said, you're not in darkness, so that day would overtake you as a thief. He said, when the world says peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them. They shall not escape. He said, but you, brethren, you're not of the night, you're of the day. So how blessed are we to have all this information? We have verse after verse after verse coming to pass right in front of our eyes, showing us how flawless the Word of God is. So pretty amazing. We'll pick up with what happened this last week. Different things keep happening that I just go, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened, but it's really happening. So Israel went back into Gaza City. They warned them yesterday for everyone to get out of Gaza City. They went back in there after they'd already basically captured Gaza City, and they found a ton of Hamas terrorists, and they captured them there. It's interesting, while they were doing that, they found 6 more tunnels. One of them was 6 kilometers long. So there's a lot of fighting with that. And what's happening right now is, even though they say that the Gaza part is almost complete, or one group said half complete, the Jerusalem Post said 94% complete, but you've got rockets and missiles still firing every single day from Gaza into Israel, and Israel's having to take care of those, and the sirens are going off. My apps on my phone are going crazy. So in the midst of Hamas doing this, you have there's no word like this all over the globe. Israel lets an aid corridor come into Gaza, so they have aid. Israel turned their electricity back on. Any other war, no one was turning their electricity back on. No one was allowing corridors of aid like Israel's doing, and not one country says a word about Israel doing that. All that you have happening is a lot of the verbiage about Hezbollah on the north. It was talked about how this would be happening by the end of July, but it looks like they're backing down from that as far as a big war between Israel and Hezbollah. But in the midst of that, you got Hezbollah firing missiles this last Monday. I think it was 20 some odd missiles and several drones. You had some Israelis get killed up there. So there's a big concern that Israel won't be able to get back to that portion. Thousands of people had to move away from their homes because it's so dangerous. But there's all the talk now is that's going to wait for a little while. Because Iran says they're going to wait till after the elections to do something crazy. But what's crazy about what they're doing right now is it came out this week. Wow, Defense Department satellites came out this week showing that Iran has 30 brand new buildings for missile production right outside of Tehran. There's a couple of cities right out there where they're doing that. I mean, it's building after building after building with these huge berms that they set up. And it's missile production. Why? They're selling missiles to Russia, and they're producing missiles for Hezbollah. And Hezbollah already has a couple 100,000. So Israel went in this last week and bombed a kind of a construction site that's helping them build that. Israel went in with fighter planes this week and took out another intercontinental ballistic missile base set up. So there's all these factories popping up everywhere that Israel's having to put them out. And it's just intriguing to see all that happening. So, I mean, you had with the Russia war with Ukraine, today, America said we're sending F-16s there, but you had a missile come from Russia and hit a school, a hospital, a children's hospital and a school together. I saw the fragments of it. It was absolutely amazing. So it's literally getting back to where we're going to have to do it like World War II in Japan. You know, when America dropped an atomic bomb on Japan, was it 200,000 women and children were killed, and Japan still didn't repent or basically surrender. America had to fire another nuclear weapon, first time ever to have to do this, and finally Japan surrendered. But you have that mentality with Hamas. I watched the lingo between Nasrallah, which is Hezbollah's head, how he was connected with Iran the last few days, how their verbiage is, we're going to do this. And then you had some really interesting alliances come together. You have France changing its leadership. You had the UK changing its leadership. You had France saying that we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. You had a bizarre thought pattern to build a unity of nations between Jordan and the West Bank and Hamas and Gaza. So with the Palestinians. So there's all these weird little things happening, which some of them caught me off guard, but some of them I had an inkling of they were going to come together. I just didn't think Jordan would ever go for it, and they haven't gone for it. But all these things are trying to make alliances to annihilate Israel. Not one of the alliances are we're going to be here to bring peace. They're all about how can we kill Israel. So a lot of things are happening with that. You got China putting up a new spy base basically in Cuba, electronic spy base, completely set up right in front of everybody. So you got nations blatantly doing things. You have North Korea fire another ballistic missile out over the Sea of Japan. So there's all these tests going on. What are the tests for? You have the Euphrates River going dry. Why? Because the kings of the East will come from China, and they'll come across that to attack Israel. So nature, nations, all these things are doing what the Bible said they would do thousands of years ago or 2,700 years ago. And so, wow, what a time to be on the earth. We're about to see Jesus. I mean, when we see all these things that point to his return, that means he's just about to come. I mean, you had a United Nations meet in Washington today, and just watching the leaders and the stances they're taking against Israel intrigues me. America held up another arms shipment to Israel, then finally they let another one go through, so it was kind of back and forth. It's just wild to see how the nations cannot stand Israel and everything about them, to the point that there's rabbis in France again this year said, okay, you've got to get Jews out of France and back into Israel. So with all this stuff happening, it's exciting for us, and it's not an escape theology, it's a hustle theology. So when we see all this, Jesus said, lift up your heads, your redemption draws nigh, indicating don't be downtrodden. So don't be freaked out about it. These are just things that the Bible said will happen, but thank God we get to be raptured when we leave. So I'm not concerned about them, I'm not concerned about my safety. It's just there's all this talk of war, but all that happens pretty much after we leave, thank God. There'll be some now, but it'll be intriguing to see what happens right after the rapture of the church, when the restrainer, the church, is holding all these things down. We're the salt of the earth, and we're keeping the Antichrist from coming on the scene. So we'll wonder how quickly he'll come on the scene after the church departs. So how blessed are we that we always go to the Word. All these things are pointing to about to see the King. Think about that, the generation of Anna, Simeon, Zacharias, Elizabeth, Mary, Joseph. That Anna and Simeon were moved by the Spirit to go into the temple that they wouldn't see death until they saw the Messiah. So wow, how wild. We're about to see the King. We're about to see the Creator, the author of life. So we always go back to the Word, though, to look at the signs. You know, up here people talk about signs. Signs aren't to scare us. Signs are to show us how close we are to the destination that we're going. The destination is the coming of the King. So you had Israel regathered, made a nation in 48. You got Jerusalem on back in 67. Jesus said the generation that sees those two won't pass away till all is fulfilled. But then you have the Hebrew language restored. You got the Ethiopian Jews brought back. You got the fertility of the land of Israel. You got the revival of the Roman Empire. You have the archway for Baal worship built there in Palmyra, Syria, where the Tower of Babel was. The Talmud says that's the last sign you'll see before the Messiah comes. You have the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water. You had the 5 red heifers get brought over from Texas, and their ears weren't clipped because of COVID. And they started clipping them now, and they can't use them. They need to be used between year 2 and 3. And these cows are 2 and 3 years old. The crazy thing is they marked them down as service animals. I thought that was kind of weird that you might be walking through the airport with a leash with a cow on it. But anyway, the red heifers are in place. You have birds in place, 172 different species of predatory birds. You got foxes show up on the Temple Mount. You had fish in the Dead Sea. You had the Dead Sea turn blood red where Sodom and Gomorrah was. So you got animals in position. You got seas changing, getting ready for this. You have Russia going to Crimea, going to the Ukraine. So all these nations that are in positions for these things, they're doing what the Bible said they would do. That's what's remarkable. We should be shouting from the housetops that Jesus is just about to come. So many, many more signs. My favorite is the Ethiopian Jews being brought back because you had C-130s show up and bring 18,000 in one day. Chuck Roberts on CNN Headline News said an exodus that eclipses the book of Exodus. Listen, when CNN's preaching about what the Lord's doing, you better lift up your heads. Jesus is just about to come. So we're blessed. So you have all kinds of signs. I mean, there's about more than 70 or 80. But then you go from signs to signals. Once you're going to a town, you don't need signs anymore. You have traffic signals. You had blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles. That's remarkable that the moons were saying, I died for you, I'm coming back. Died for you, coming back. 4 in a row. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. 1948 when Israel was made a nation. 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. So remarkable to have signals. The Bible said that the planets would be for signals for us. The Psalm says the heavens declare the glory of God. So that's amazing. But then you had the Bethlehem star when Jesus was born. You had Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus come together. The constellation was Virgo. This last year you had it happen again, celestial event. What was the constellation? Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So all these things show us how near we are, so we'll make changes. It's not about an escape theology, it's about a hustle theology. So what do? Help our local church, help our local pastor. We don't fit church into our life, it is our life. The king's about to come. How blatant does it have to get before we make changes? Now, what are the changes? We want to be more of a soul winners. We want to be on fire, going as fast as we can. I've never seen a runner in a race go, what in the world is that? No, they know exactly what the finish line is. We're looking at the finish line for the church, so let's go for it. How blessed are we that we could say we were here right at the very end and we're about to see him. You're going to see his eyes as a flame of fire, feet like undefined brass, voice of many waters, author of life. I think it's going to freak us out how humble he is. We'll see the king. Let's do everything we can to get the message out just before he comes. We'll come back next Wednesday. There's no telling what will happen in 1 week because more things happen than I can get out in 10 to 12 minutes. So come back and we'll get into it because we're about to see the king. Have a blessed, wonderful week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the EDU at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.